pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. How to beat that?
Yeah. I was going to say.
Thank you. Okay, would you call the meeting to order, Bishop, please?
Okay, we want to call the Rytown Park Commission May 17th meeting to order. And we'll start with Commissioner French.
Here.
Commissioner Pilla. He says he's coming. Commissioner Feinstein.
Yes.
Salanitro. Yes. Commissioner Sack has indicated he will probably not make it. And Commissioner Carvin.
Yes. Okay, comments from the public? Comments from the public?
Not yet. Not yet.
We did I inverted the pledge. Sorry. Mr. Servey, just state your name and name for the...
I'm Servey, Rybrook. Back in February, I filled out an application for part-time work at the beach in Crawford Park. And last week I was interviewed down at the beach by the foreman and the assistant foreman. And I was told that the reason why they interviewed me was because one of the persons that worked at Crawford Park quit. And the foreman told me that they would like to ask me if I would consider.
Actually, Mr. Servey, Crawford Park would be the Rytown Park Commission, the Rytown Commission. This is Rytown Park.
Oh.
Oakland Beach, sorry, Goldie. But so this, I mean, any concerns or complaints you had about Crawford Park are better taken up with the Rytown Commission. That meeting's at 8 o'clock tonight.
Oh, 8 o'clock tonight? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Servey.
Hence the request for the name change, right?
Yeah, and now here Bishop, we got to get Oakland Park on here in one of our headings, just because I know Ms. Solomon.
Sorry, sir.
Yes, thank you.
I love Oakland Beach, and I love
Crawford Park.
our park in Rybrook. What I want to know is, I love the concerts. I love to go to the concerts in the park. I think we need concerts, more concerts than there are now. And I'm hoping, please God, that we can get more concerts to be at the park. I'm on the Portchester Entertainment Committee, and I feel that music is key. Without music, we're dead. And music at Oakland Beach is incredible. It's incredible. But we need more of it. A lot of people do come. They love it. They come with their children. They come, and a lot of the kids go into the bands because of the music that they see at the park. So we need more concerts at Oakland Beach, please.
Goldie, I believe we have one more budgeted for than last year. Is that
We have
correct?
seven. We're 7 concerts.
Up to 7 now.
We're up to
Okay,
one-
well,
there's
I don't
one
want you
more,
to think
so-
I think it's actually 2 more than the first year we started.
But I think that Goldie has been consistent in that, but there is budgeted for at least more than we had last year.
So, I mean, exactly. I don't want you to feel as if.
I don't have a schedule.
Okay, Mr. Lawyer?
It's on the website. We're going to send
Would you make sure?
I have a website.
Yep, that's a very fair point. Mr. Lawyer, would you figure out, or Mr. Jaffer, just.
We can give you one down the beach. I have a list of them.
Okay, but.
The dates.
Beach, but I'm not.
Right. I'll tell you what, would you do me a favor? What I'd like to do is, would you distribute a list of the concerts to all the senior centers in Rytown and Rye City, please? You're at the Goldie, you go to the senior center, don't you, Goldie?
At the senior center,
Yeah.
good.
So we'll distribute the concerts, and I want you to know that as our most persistent commentator, I don't want you to think that your suggestions are going on deaf ears. As Mayor Feinstein pointed out, we have increased the number of concerts.
Joe, I represent a lot of people.
No, I know you do.
Remember that.
I do remember that.
You can't get out at night. Most seniors cannot get out at night.
Sure.
And so I have to bring up whatever it is.
Yep.
All over.
Good. Thank you so much.
It'll be in the newspapers, too.
Right, but just let's get it to the senior centers. That's a good point.
That's a good idea. They can be posted.
Whole schedule.
Right.
Right.
Other comments from the public?
Can I
make my comments, Mr. Vitti, by,
Thank you.
after I hear the rest of the people talk? Is that reasonable? Because I've got something very important to say, but I like to listen to other people first.
You mean after the other public
After
comments
the-
or after
yeah,
the
after
comments
the-
from the staff?
Right, and then give me a chance to,
I think generally how we work in Rye City, this is for items that are not on the agenda. If there are items that are on the agenda, then you can comment, public can comment on those items when they come up on the agenda. Are you referring to something on the agenda you want to speak to?
I don't know what the agenda is. I have to look at it.
Sure, Mr. Vitti, that's fine.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Okay. 2011 operating budget. I think tonight, I don't know, the stars aligned. I know it's not I know we put a lot of work into this. Bishop, I want to thank you and your team for all that. I want to thank Mayor French and Mayor Pilla for all their time. Commissioner Sack for his questions. I think we really drilled down a lot harder this year. I want to thank each of the division heads at the park who put forward each of the, the way I'm doing this budget is we really need to cap expenditures, and that's what we can really control and focus on. I want to thank each of the division heads for recommending a staffing level, working hard to cut the staffing levels to the bare minimum that provides the adequate level of service. I want to thank all the department heads for doing that. Since our last meeting, we had a good meeting at the beach to go through that. And again, Mayor French and Mayor Pilla on the budget. And I want to thank the Rye Citizens Committee as well. Paul, I know you caught a couple of typos in our financial model today as well. Now, Bishop, the numbers we have here are adjusted for those.
The numbers here are not adjusted.
Not adjusted.
For the two items that.
Okay. So would you explain to everybody, and Paul, if you want to come up as well? No. Okay. Fine. Please, Mayor French.
Let me just say that you commend the chairman here. Under his leadership, we are all now pulling in the same direction. And yes, there have been some growing pains as we've evolved over the last year. But we can all clearly say that this is now our park. It's all one park, representing the village of Rybrook, the village of Portchester, Rye Town, and the city of Rye. And I'm very pleased with the work of the Rye Citizens Finance Committee with Paula Schaefer, the work of our Parking Committee with Christina Beecher, the Rye Town Park Advisory Committee with Mike Corbett and all of his people. And most importantly, of the staff, the Rye Town Parks staff has done an incredible job, from Bishop to Fred to all the department heads, really taking a hard look at where can we improve, where we can do better. So I think it's really a compliment to everybody in this room that finally we're at a point where we're all on the same page, pulling in the same direction.
Thank you, Mayor French, and I want to concur with those views. Also, we fully understand, well, we've got numbers on the financial model here. As you and I have discussed, it's also going to be all about execution and managing to the numbers. In the past, we've really managed to revenues. I don't think that need to tell anybody here tonight that we're not going to see rain till Sunday. We're going to get a whole lot more rainy days this year is my expectation, so we're really going to have to be vigilant about managing expenditures in the park this year. So thank you for those kind words, and I want to echo those. Mr. Nowotnik, so I think as per the numbers we have here, we're looking. Why don't we just announce the numbers that we have here, and then we're going to have two items that are going to change these numbers.
All right. What we've done here is first you'll see that there's a significant reduction on the revenue side. We looked at the revenue, and what we did was we discounted the revenue approximately 10% against last year's revenue.
So for the people at home, we're going from
985 to 920.
Exactly.
All right. Again, last year was a very good year. We had a high percentage of operating days. We exceeded, well, I shouldn't say we exceeded our revenue expectations, but our revenue came in at a robust pace. The feeling was that this year we should not project, we should be conservative and not project too much on the revenue side.
And just to be clear on that, once we've established the tariffs and fees, the actual revenue count is out of our hands.
Agreed.
Expenditure side.
Exactly. So then we look at the expenditure side, and we're taking those down by $70,000, Mr. Nowotnik, is that right?
Yeah, if you look at the bottom line expenditures, and I'm going down to the bottom here, hang on a second. Whoops. You can see that our expenditures are coming in at approximately 951 against $1,084,000 last year. So expenditures are down to the tune of about $135,000. We're still showing a loss, however, based on how this all works. So we're talking about a projected $30,000 loss.
Let's just stop there. So we're looking at a $30,000 operating loss for this year, prior to uncovering two, if you will, and that's, working on Wall Street. I don't think I ever worked on a financial model that didn't have a complex financial model, didn't have a kink in it here or there. And thanks to the vigilant work of the Rye Citizens Budget Committee, we discovered, I think, two mistakes. Is that right, Mr. Nowotnik?
Yes, there are two fundamental flaws that we have, which we can explain, and both of them are on the labor side. If we go back up to the labor portion of the budget, you can see on the outer right, what we had there was a projection of costs in column L that in our minds was representative of the perfect season. And what we did was we discounted that by 11% to allow for bad weather. The problem was that the first error was that we have certain expenses. There are certain people that are salaried that whether or not they're going to wind up getting paid. So what we did was we applied the discount to those that compensation, and we should not have.
Right. So just to be clear again, what we did was, obviously the goal is to send people home when it rains.
Yes.
When we reduced expenditure revenues by 10%, we were assuming a higher ratio of rainy days. In order to adjust the expenditures, then we reduced the expenditures in some sort of similar fashion. The problem we had is we did it across the board rather than for all and the salaried employees we're not sending home.
Exactly. So we understated the budget number by about $8,000.
Right. So that's 8,000, and then there was one other mistake, I think.
Now, the other mistake is more fundamental, and frankly, what it is it's in the grounds area. And if you look at the grounds area, and I just take you back to 2007, it was $218,000 in 08. It was $161. In 09, it was $131. In 010, it was $122, and we're coming in at $96,483. I think I had mentioned at the meeting I was concerned that grounds looked a little on the light side to me. It turns out that when we budgeted the grounds, and you have it in your packet there, if you look at grounds maintenance, you'll see that we only budgeted 90 days of what we would call full-time grounds maintenance. The reality is that should come into 124 days. All right? When you do the math, what that translates to is approximately $26,000 of additional expense that we had not forecast. And what I can do is take you to the ground sheet, for example. And if
you don't need to. I think we.
Okay,
so basically, what is the new loss then? So we had 30,000 plus another 34, so we're $64,000 operating loss versus the $30,000 operating loss we had.
Correct.
Okay. So I don't know if everybody
there's a $34,000 mistake. These two errors are $34,000.
So just to be clear and summarizing, welcome, Mayor Pilla.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, it's okay. The numbers we have here show an operating loss of $30,000. Mm-hmm. There's $34,000 in additional expenditures that were identified that because of mistakes in the financial model. So the actual operating loss will be $64,000 this year. So that's what we need to make those. And then basically the grounds people were not counted for weekends. So it was only 5 days a week.
Basically weekends is what we left out.
And then the other issue, as I said, we reduced expenditures for full-time staff when that shouldn't have been the case. So we're looking at an operating loss of $64,000 now. Okay, so the question is there any further expenditures we could take out of the budget? And that's why we have copious.
The backup is actually excellent.
Excellent backup. Where each of when we left the last meeting, what we agreed was to go down with all the commission members that were available to meet with staff, and what we asked staff to do was prepare a comprehensive memo explaining the number of employees that they needed and what they would use them for and cut. Now, I don't want the staff, if we decide to cut security in half, for example, and there's an incident at the beach, I don't want that. That's not a staff issue. That's a policy issue here. So what the staff has done is put forward their rationale, why they think the number of people. I don't think there's one group at the park that didn't reduce staff this year. I think there's one group that didn't reduce expenditure this year. And as Mayor French and I talked about, obviously the real challenge is going to be the operations and execute to the budget, and hopefully even beat the budget a little bit. Mayor Feinstein.
I just have two comments in the budget, and I think that it's really, as I said, it was a work in progress, and the progress that was made is really excellent, and I commend everyone for the backup information as well. I only have two questions. One is a consistent theme. I look at all of the line items for expenditures, and they've basically have gone down. There's one item that I've always mentioned, and there has to be a rationale I'm going to ask again, and that's for professional fees, which have really gone up to, let me see, almost 53,000 from last year's 46 and a draft audit of 43. Now, is there something, I see the backup for there's a grant that has to be audited, which is $2,500, but is there a secretarial position that's now in there that wasn't in there before? Is that the explanation? Because it was really glaring, because what I did is when I reviewed the numbers, I also compared the variance and to see why this particular line item, and I guess the question is, can we negotiate with our auditors? We did that in Rybrook. So I raise this, I'm just raising this to something to be considered because it's so large. The only,
Mayor Feinstein,
and we did negotiate.
the Village of Portchester actually rebid our audit services, and we saved a considerable amount of money on our IDA, the Housing Authority, and the village proper. Yeah, it came in a lot under.
It was just glaring.
Because that number's growing a lot. You're absolutely right.
It's glaring, and it's grown a lot where everything else has shrunk.
Well, that's
and listen, professional fees are near and dear to my heart, but on the other hand, this is a difficult. So I just raised that. We could pass the budget this way and possibly, still work on those numbers. And the only other issue or question that I have was the permit office. It stays open until July 31st. And I saw in the backup, there were 388 permits last year that were processed from mid-June through July 31st. This is not, I'm not changing anything, but it's one of those items, as you get closer to July 31st, would people really be buying permits that late? And maybe just want to revisit, and this is just the staff, not a policy that really, sometimes we just continue things. Is it necessary? And that will be for the staff to make a determination. Terry, it'll be, your call. But I'm hoping that there'll be less permits purchased because so many are being purchased earlier because we had our fees in place. That's just my comment.
That's it. Terry, did you want to comment on that, or? I know this was discussed at some level.
Yeah, I'm not questioning what will happen. I just will.
Sure.
I'm sure you'll be vigilant to see whether or not.
Right.
Yeah, what I usually do is mid-July.
Yeah.
We kind of look at the sales, and I use the people in other areas because by that point, a lot of the staff are away on vacation with families. They're starting to get their stuff together, the college kids to go away. So staff is reduced. So we may, I may just use myself in there for a week or two. And that's what we've done for the past 2 years. So even though it's open through July 31st, basically it's really not staffed with the 2 people.
Thank you.
They're dispersed in other areas.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks,
For
Terry.
the clarification.
Thank you, Mayor Feinstein. And I think that's a good suggestion. We should, we just finished the audit. Now's a good time to talk to them about their fees and see if because when we first came in, we changed auditors and did reduce it, but given the savings that you're both generating in your villages, we should revisit that as well.
Okay.
And you'll find out that usually they're fairly amenable. 'Cause
Yeah.
they wanna make the business.
Well, it's easy peasy for them now. Good. Any other comments, please? Mayor French? Oh, Commissioner Salanitro?
Well, I just quickly wanted to echo the sentiments of the hard work that was put into the budget, and as all budgets are, they're forecast for what we anticipate to see happen. Hopefully, we can do better than what we anticipate on a revenue side and better on an expense side. So I think it's important to go back when we talked about accounting on a month-to-month basis to make sure we're tracking the budget properly, or we can get a better sense of where our revenues are on a month-to-month basis as well as expenses. So we don't have an issue like we did last year. So I think that would be my only recommendation, is to get a better handle on things as the months progress.
That's imperative. That's absolutely essential. The town accountant apologized he couldn't make it tonight, but he's committed to have that, and we should have that. Bishop, if we commit, and Fred, absolutely certain next meeting we should have our first monthly update.
That's good.
Now that we have the budget approved. Mayor French?
I would say the headlines are clear. We're reducing our revenue expectation. We had a record year last year, but already we're off to a slow start with the weather, and we can see that continuing on. But we're keeping our fees flat. On the expense side, it's all about the expenses, and I think we've looked at the level of service we want to provide. We don't want to, impact lifeguards or security, so we've held the line on that so it's consistent. But as we go through the season, we want to look at the operating decisions we have to make, like the north gate, for example. If we see in afternoons nobody's coming through the north gate, we may want to shift our strategy, and the permit office as well. So there are clear operating decisions that no one should wait for the commission to pass a policy on this. This has to be day-to-day management of the park, where the staff is looking at trends and making their management decisions in a way to save costs, so we can get back to the original budget. I know we came up with an extra $34,000 tonight, but we want to continue to save costs while maintaining the level of service, and that's the challenge that every municipality is facing, and that's our charge to the staff. And I think in the discussions, I feel very good that each department head went through their staff and all of their personnel and their decisions and put forth a fair and reasonable expectation of what we should expect as a commission. So, again, kudos to all those that partook in the process.
Mr. Chair, actually, I too want to echo my appreciation to Bishop and Fred, Terry, Bill, and the staff for the hard work they put into the budget and with the analysis. Actually, Mayor French and I, with Paula from the Right Finance Committee, spent some time dissecting it. And while it's great that we have a 6% reduction in expenses, that's about $60,000. And the good news is good news, bad news, right? This is different than a municipal budget where we're not levying taxes. So the good news is we have more flexibility in a sense, but on the other hand, we have more risk because we're totally dependent on the revenue in sunny days. So to all the points that you have heard just before, it's going to be really, really important that that staff manages the day-to-day, because honestly, we shouldn't be getting into the weeds, right? So that's really, really important. Just big theme, there's still an operating loss. It's still not free for Rytown residents. I do think those are reasonable goals to achieve. And because of just what I said, that because we don't have this tax levy and we have this variability, we don't have to wait until the next budget season to get started. And really looking at the staffing, the professional services, and also figuring out a strategy on automation. When we talk about the opportunities with these kiosks and eliminating, attendance in the parking booths and things like that, that's where you're going to get those tens of thousands of dollars to, like in our lifetime or on our terms, make this free for Rytown residents. So I think we're heading in a good direction with all that. I want to thank the staff for their leadership and hard work.
And if I may just add and piggyback, because I guess I've been consistent to look what other, not now, but as we go through the summer and the fall, also the economies of scale that we could, piggyback with the city of Rye. I know that Mayor French has been very receptive to that, and the commission as well, and working with your committee, because it's all about working together and how we can be more economical so that we could achieve that goal of where there's no cost to the 13 80% of non.
Shared services, absolutely, yeah.
So that would be that. I just have a quick question
Go
to
ahead.
ask.
But
Just
let me just finish up on your point there. The city manager is looking at recommendations. He has talked with Bishop on a number of fronts and the chairman. Our goal is at some point within the next 6 months, we'll have recommendations before this commission to make decisions for the next season.
Great. Thank you, because I think that's something that we've been talking about as the commission. And I think it's, we've said before, the site of this park is within the city of Rock, which makes such an interesting dynamics. I have one question which is not related to the budget, but it is the revenue side. Has Seaside Johnny's paid their first installment that was due May 1st?
We have not received the check yet.
It wasn't a large, it was only 10%, but I was just curious.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, typically, he's always been a little on the late side.
I
but,
know, I know that, but...
we do catch up with him fairly quickly.
And have you had the meeting with him to lay out the season? And,
No, we have not yet.
Okay, well, I know last year we didn't have the meeting till later, and I know so the staff should have that meeting with him to go through the logistics of the new season.
We intend to have that. It's been a little bit of a struggle. I do want to point out the commission would be remiss if they did not mention that you did implement free beach for all permit holders. So you did cut,
Oh, yes, thank
if
you,
you will,
yes.
you had a revenue cut there of about $7,000 or $8,000 to allow all permit holders to eliminate that $1 nuisance
So we're
fee.
chipping away towards that goal of making it free, right? Yeah.
I think we're trying to really be receptive and to encourage the residents, because when you look at the demographic breakdown, it's just so interesting that that's at 87%, I believe it is the number, are non-residents.
We want our residents to...
Well, the permit mailing that we made seemed to have been very well received. We are continually getting permits of approximately 10, 15 per day. So we're hoping that permit revenue will shoot up and that will alter that percentage a bit in terms of resident versus non-resident.
And I got another call on the senior permit again. Can you just clarify the policy on the senior permit?
All right. The senior permits are... Any existing or pre-existing senior permits are grandfathered in, and they do not require a fee. They may require an update if, depending on whether there's a photo or not a photo, but there's no fee. Only 2011 and going forward, the permit fee is $20, and it is renewable every year.
And the definition, once again, for those people who are listening to of senior is...
62 and over.
62, I'm getting close.
You read both, Mr. Supervisor.
Can we do a press release on that, Bishop?
Yes.
And Bill, can we do a press release on that or put it on our different local TV channels?
Certainly, I think, certainly, we'll have Bill Lawyer put something out again.
And Mr. Supervisor, if I may relate it to that, actually, it's funny, when you talked about the senior thing, I had a flashback to my campaign, and the letter seniors got, yeah, you're grandfathered if you already have a permit, right? But to piggyback on what Mayor French just said about using the cable channel, if there is a short message crafted on the permits, I would suggest that we can put them on our municipal government channels and websites.
Wonderful.
And also, a poster. Can you come up with like a flyer or something that we can put in our clerk's office?
Sure.
You know, 'cause
Absolutely.
that'd be, we have enough
Absolutely.
people, I think, coming in
Sure.
to the village halls, the city halls, that maybe we can drum up some permit business for you.
Goldie?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to remind you of something that's very important that you have to take into consideration. It's not permits.
Right.
It's parking. We have to understand that we're still in a recession, depression, and people from Portchester, mostly immigrants who've come in here, want to take their children to the park, but they can't afford. They can't afford the parking. A lot of them have lost their jobs. A lot of stores are closed. A lot of them are just disabled or something that want to come to the beach, but they can't take the parking fees. We can get a lot more people to the beach in parking if we can get better parking for some of these people, especially from Portchester. Portchester is a low-income to a middle-income community. It cannot go. The gas prices are killing us to go from here to the park. And a lot of the people who have lost their jobs and want their children to be at the beach and everything cannot afford the parking fees. So you have to take that into consideration. that we still are in a recession depression. Yes, the staff is there. Yes, they need everything, but you need more money. You can get more money if you can get more people.